King David, one of my favorites, said, I rejoiced with those who said to me, let us go to the house of the Lord. He said that in Psalms 122:1. David was excited when he got the announcement that there was going to be a meeting at the house of God. He was excited about, he had appointed singers, and he was excited about hearing them seeing the players that he had appointed to play. And I believe he was excited about seeing the brothers of the nation of Israel. And I believe he was really excited about the sacrifice, and that he would watch the sacrifice and he would know his sins were atoned for, because David had this prophetic thing going. He knew it represented a greater lamb that would come someday. He went on to say in another place, better is one day in your courts than 1,000 elsewhere. He said, I would rather be a doorkeeper in the house of my God than to dwell in the tents of wickedness, in Psalms 84:10. So David liked to hear about what's going on with God's people. What's the next meeting? Now I know we're not under the law of Moses, but David didn't say anything about going to the temple to avoid the heavy hand of the law, about avoiding the consequences. He didn't say it's a sin if I don't go. He didn't say any of that. He was referring to an affection that he had for the house of God. That's why David was very unusual. Pastor Adrian Warnock said this. He said, it's not possible to love Jesus while hating his bride. It's also not possible to love Jesus and pursue Jesus while neglecting his bride. Listen, when you're a serious Christ follower and you're in love with Jesus, you love to hear what's going on down at the church. You love to hear the announcements about the next thing that's going to happen. What if we cultivated that excitement that David had, and that hunger to meet together, that hunger to know what's going on, that hunger to hear about what our church is doing next and when the next meeting is? I think it would be, I think it would be unbelievable in our community if we had congregations of hundreds, even thousands, who were all excited about the next thing their church was announcing, the next thing that God's people were doing. I know you got a lot going on in your life, and I know you got your kids' sports and dance, and you got your leisure time, and your sports, and your vacations, and you've got your clubs you belong to, and you've got your careers to manage, and so you got all these announcements you have to process. I believe that we're missing it if we don't move the announcements of what God's people are doing in our church family, if we don't move that to the top of the list, right? Just yesterday I was talking to my father-in-law, and my father-in-law is in his mid-80s, and he's seen a lot. He's seen a lot in his life. But I'm always amazed at his fresh enthusiasm he has for the people of God. And he came over to help me with a project at my house yesterday. And after we're done, I said, have a seat. I want to tell you about something that's happening down at the church. And I began to talk to him about something that's in the works. And he began to beam. I mean, it was just, it didn't surprise me because I've seen it. He began to beam. And before he left, as we walked out the door, he said, I am so glad that I'm going to get to live to see something else happen, exciting, at Bethany Community Church. Boy, you know what? Now I know what some of you are thinking. Yeah, sure. His son-in-law is the pastor, his son-in-law and daughter, pastors of the church, and that's why he's so excited about what the church is doing. But if you think that, you don't know Quentin and Helen Matson. You don't know their life. Here's people that with 5 children moved to Hawaii. And they didn't go to Hawaii to hang out at the beach. You know why they went there? They went there to help plant and build a Chinese church that was there. Here's a family, here's a couple that took their children, that at the request of a pastor from North Dakota who came to New Bedford, Massachusetts. The reason they're here today is a pastor from North Dakota came to Massachusetts, asked them to help him come up here and plant a church, and they came. So what you see them living, how they're living their life out at Bethany, is how they've always lived their life, and it has nothing to do with the fact that I'm involved or anybody else. So, I want to have I want you to have, because it's such a blessing to you. And I want to have that enthusiasm for what God's people are doing. Years ago, I used to love to listen to this pastor named Jamie Buckingham, and Jamie Buckingham was a leader in the Jesus movement, what we used to call the charismatic movement. And Jamie Buckingham had this theory that people didn't listen to announcements. So one day he gets up at a church and he announces to the congregation that the baptismal service has been canceled because there's a alligator in the baptismal tank. You know what? Sure enough, no one responded except one little boy came up and said, "I can help you get the alligator out of the tank." So if we're not careful, we just kind of tune out the announcements. We tune them out because we think, oh, this is not the worship, it's not the Word of God. Hey, this is right up there. This is right below those things, because this is about what the family of God is doing and how God is leading His church. The other night, a wonderful lady in our church called me. She didn't have to do this, and I'm not saying that everybody has to do this. She didn't have to do this, but she called me in tears, and she had blown off the week of prayer because she just wasn't being attentive to it being announced. And I appreciated her attitude, and I really did. She began to apologize that it because she wasn't attentive to the announcement of it happening. Are you missing some stuff? Some stuff that would really be great for your life? Some stuff that would be great for the ministry God has called you to? Because you don't understand how holy announcements are? Listen, I know we all have all that important stuff to do, but Apostle Paul said in Ephesians 5:10, find out what pleases the Lord. I'm not trying to put you on a guilt trip or threatening you with hellfire over being inattentive to announcements or anything like that. But as a serious Christ follower, I know you resonate with the words of Paul. I want to find out what pleases the Lord. And I know this pleases the Lord for me to be engaged with my church body. So the next time Dr. Dorn gets up on Sunday to make those announcements, it's not time to ponder, I wonder if Lee Harvey Oswald acted alone. And those things are I got to check my phone to see if the Patriots are they playing today at 1 o'clock or 4 o'clock. No, I'm going to pay attention. I want you to do this. I'm going to pay attention because I'm excited about what God is going to do. I'm excited about what is going on at the house of the Lord, because one of those events may be the place where I hear from God about a major thing in my life, a major issue. One of those places, one of those events, maybe those alpha meetings or that prayer meeting or that retreat that they're talking about, that may be the one where a serious addiction or sin issue really gets dealt with in my life. Or that may be the one where I meet people that I become friends with that help me in my walk. Somebody you may meet, your child may meet their future spouse at one of these meetings. Good things happen when God's people meet, because you know what Jesus said? He said, where 2 or 3 are gathered together in my name, there I am in the midst. That's an amazing promise. And I want you to remember that the next you hear something be announced. You can't go to everything, I understand that. But I want you to think about it. Does God want me to go to that? Because Jesus is going to be at that event. Let's make announcements holy again.